navigating the sibling fallout of no contact with father. Hoping for some advice on how to handle a pretty delicate situation in my family. It's about me 34M, my sister 36F, and my father 65M. My parents divorced when I was a kid, so my mother is not directly involved in any of this. At the end of this post, there is a very concrete situation that I need advice on how to handle, so if you don't want to read too much, you could skip to the final part of the situation. But the first parts provide a bit of background. My father and I. My father and I haven't had any contact for 6 years whatsoever. To put it briefly, we've always had a very tumultuous and downright antagonistic relationship, and after many, many years of pain, sorrow, and disappointment, I finally gave up on having a relationship with him at all. One night, in a fit of fury, I told him how I felt about him, and in no uncertain terms. I told him that I regard him as a child abuser and a vile, moronic narcissist, and that he means less than nothing to me. I meant every word, still do, and shortly thereafter, I sent him a massive text message that made it very clear exactly how he has harmed me and how it has affected my life. I then immediately blocked his number as my mind was made up, and I just wanted him gone. For good, and I couldn't care less about his response or any future communication. So, there is no reconciliation possible, and I'm as fine as anyone could be with that. That's not my goal, and I have no remorse or guilt about how it ended, and I have never for a second doubted that it was the right choice for me. Collateral damage. When I broke off contact, the hardest part was that I realized this would make it incredibly difficult to sustain my relationships with members of my extended family on my father's side. Although it pained me greatly, I made that sacrifice willingly, thinking that that would be the end of it. At that point, it was about self-preservation, and I was absolutely ruthless in guaranteeing myself freedom from his influence. Whatever it took, I was willing to do it. But of course, it wasn't going to end just like that, as these things so rarely do. In my case, primarily because of my sister. My sister has, historically, been chiefly on my side in all of this because she witnessed the abuse I suffered directly and was unable to prevent it despite numerous attempts at diplomacy. She carries a lot of guilt because of this, but at the same time, her and my father were always quite close. My father's abusive tendencies also targeted my sister, but in a very different manner, and she is much more of a people-pleaser kind of person than I ever was. Where I was routinely shamed, blamed, and ridiculed, my father made her into a mother figure and confidante, meaning she's been his personal therapist ever since her teens. She resents him for this, but her feelings are far more murky and ambivalent than mine, and despite her complaining about him and his behavior constantly even to this day, she hasn't broken off contact with him because she wants her children to have a relationship with their grandfather. To me, that's her choice, and I've never criticized her for that, regardless of how I feel his influence might come to harm my nieces and nephew. My father and I have successfully avoided each other for 6 years, and I think we're both quite terrified of the day that we meet. But as long as navigate around each other, that's not a problem. The situation. Recently, my sister gave birth to her 3rd child, and the christening is set for August. Where I'm from, it's a big occasion where all family members, inner and extended, are invited along with friends and their significant others and children. And of course, my sister doesn't know what to do about me and our father because we haven't seen or talked to each other for 6 years. She knows exactly how I feel about him and that I don't want to be anywhere near him or ever see him or hear him talk again. In that, I have found peace, but my father is unwilling to accept that he will not be invited to the christening because I don't want him there, and deeply upset about my sister originally not inviting him. So, he's been emotionally pressuring, blackmailing my sister into inviting him. My sister has said to him that I'm the one who gets to be there if me and my father cannot agree that it is all right for the both of us to be there somehow. She's told him that she thinks that he is supposed to be the mature one, and that it's his responsibility to reach out and make amends with me if he wants to be there for his granddaughter's christening. So he said to her that he would reach out to me. My sister then texted me to tell me that my father might contact me because they'd had that conversation. At first, I didn't think he would contact me at all, because he generally doesn't follow through on any promise he makes, and he's a massive coward when it comes to dealing with me, or any conflict for that matter. But to my surprise, I received a text from him today that reads, "I'm reaching out because your sister has expressed that she wants the 3 of us, him, myself, and his wife, at the christening, and I was hoping that we could agree to being in the same room for this and future events. We don't have to shake hands or even talk. We just need to behave like adults. Kind regards." Never mind that my sister has not expressed that she wants him and wife at the christening or how aggressive the tone of this message is. It has provoked way more emotions in me than I thought possible. I thought I was over it, but there's a lot of anger and, to a lesser degree, also sorrow and anxiety. Emotionally, I regret unblocking his number for this message deeply, since it has left me in quite the state of emotional turmoil, but I also don't know what to do about the situation with the christening at hand. I've narrowed it down to 3 options. I can tell my sister what reading his message did to me, and that I'm clearly not able to cope with being anywhere near him, seeing as I can't even read a message from him without imploding emotionally. That would mean she has to choose between us, and I don't want to put her in that position or risk antagonizing her and ruining our relationship. If I go down this path, I'm honestly afraid she'll consider me incredibly cowardly or suspect me of agitating the conflict on purpose, and then decide that I'm the one who won't get invited to the christening. I could defy every emotion and instinct I have, try to man up and tell my father that we can both go as long as he keeps his distance and avoids talking to me or about me. I absolutely mean it when I say that I have no way of predicting exactly how I will react if he tries anything, but it could get very, very ugly as it has many times before. I won't know until it happens, but I am definitely at risk of losing my temper and making a scene. Also, I find the idea of being at the christening with that many people around almost publicly humiliating because they all know what's going on with me and him, and I feel like I'll be spending the entire day avoiding my father and his wife, and then what even is the point of being there if I have to be hyper-vigilant and anxious? I broke off contact with him exactly because I could no longer ignore my own feelings or downplay myself just in order to keep the peace. And on that promise to myself, I will not under any circumstance in all my life go back, so there's a real risk that it might end extremely badly. I tell my sister that I'm simply not emotionally ready for this happen. Every inch of my body is communicating this to me, but I have only thought about it for 1 day, so this might change. And then I suggest that I'll pass this time, and then me and my father can sort of take turns at participating in her events so we don't have to see each other, and so she does not have to feel like she's caught in between, or that she has to intervene, or mediate between us, which, as she explains it, is actually the biggest issue for her. I'm not a big fan of this because I will have to cede territory to him, and there's another warrior-like part of me who is telling me, hell no, you will cede nothing to this demon of a man, and if he tries anything you'll insert varying, non-violent vengeance fantasies. But come the day I do not know if I'm strong enough to assert myself sufficiently to make him uncomfortable enough to avoid any future events. Keep in mind also that I'm dealing with a man who many suspect of being a sociopath, so yeah, that's probably not a battle any wise person would take willingly. I'm hoping for some advice on how to proceed. I don't have to decide for a while, but my mind is going in circles, and I'm caught somewhere in between self-pity and wild fury, unable to make sense of what's happening in my head and heart. Thanks in advance to anyone who took the time to read and respond.